degrees.
But the stats are the stats.
But that's not, it doesn't say I'm white, I voted for Donald Trump because of racism.
That's
not, let me just, what stat are you talking about?
You can't dissect the two.
Yes, you can.
Sunny Hostin seems to grow more frustrated as one of her co-hosts, Alyssa, consistently counters her extreme takes with cold, hard facts. Sunny often stirs the pot with exaggerated claims, sometimes playing into divisive narratives about race and gender. But Alyssa has made it a habit to challenge her on live TV, shutting down her questionable arguments since the days of Trump's election. Before we jump into today's clip of Alyssa putting Sunny in her place, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps out the channel. If you haven't already, subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video. Now, let's get started. Before we show Alyssa's latest takedown, let's take a quick look back at the past week. Sunny has been making some wild claims, many of which Alyssa has effortlessly dismantled. For example, here's a moment where Sunny tried to explain why so many Latino voters supported Trump. Take a look.
And finally, we talk a lot about these different demographics and these assumptions of where they're going to go. Latinos in Texas, a district that's 97% Latino, went 75 percentage points for Donald Trump. Why?
Misogyny.
It's on the border.
It's
the border
misogyny.
crisis is on their doorstep. And they were begging people to care about it for years. We need to take some lessons.
That's what that was.
The lessons are not
Knock. Who's there?
This ties directly to what Bill Maher talked about recently when he criticized the Democratic Party. He delivered a blunt message, pointing out a big flaw in their thinking. Maher explained that it's no surprise some people blame Kamala Harris's struggles on racism and sexism when they see everything through the lens of race and gender. This is exactly what Sunny Hostin does here. Instead of asking why so many Hispanic voters supported Trump, 75% to be exact, Sunny immediately blamed it on bigotry. But Alyssa came back with a simple and clear answer. It's about the border and immigration issues. For many Hispanic communities, especially in border states, these problems hit home. This is why governors from border states sent illegal immigrants to sanctuary cities across the country to show how easy it is for those unaffected to claim moral high ground. It's simple to say, we welcome everyone when you're not dealing with the real challenges, like overcrowded schools, strained healthcare systems, and limited housing. For border communities, which are often 90% Hispanic, these challenges are very real. Jobs, schools, and resources are stretched thin, and they feel the impact in ways people farther away don't. As Maher pointed out, when you view everything through a woke lens of racism and sexism, it's no wonder you come to the wrong conclusions, and there's more. Sunny went as far as to criticize white women, calling them uneducated just because they voted for Trump. Take a look at this clip.
What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding. You have Latino men, actually, voting more for him. And you have, and black men was not the story. We're not the story here because they voted almost 80% for the vice president.
Right.
So why do you think that uneducated white women voted against their reproductive health freedoms? And why do you think Latino men voted in favor of someone that's going to deport, says he's going to deport the majority of his community?
White women like being called uneducated white women. I think the economy matters, national security matters. But when you put people in these boxes, I think that's a takeaway from this, right?
Democrats often seem to believe that having a college degree automatically makes them smarter or better informed than those without one. But let's be honest, just having a degree doesn't mean someone is more educated or capable. For example, does a degree in gender studies make someone more knowledgeable than a plumber, an electrician, or a skilled builder? Tradespeople bring valuable expertise and practical knowledge to the table that college degrees don't always provide. This mindset seems to justify taking on student debt, with some using their degree as a badge of success or superiority. It's as if holding a degree helps them feel better about the financial burden, even if the degree doesn't deliver real-world value. Unfortunately, this often leads to unfairly labeling those without college degrees as uneducated, which is both elitist and dismissive. This way of thinking causes a divide, especially when polls categorize people based on whether they went to college. Those with degrees sometimes cling to the idea that their education inherently makes them better, creating a false sense of superiority. Sunny Hostin reflected this attitude, but Alyssa wasn't having it. She pushed back, countering Sunny's claims with clear, logical arguments, which only added to Sunny's frustration. Meanwhile, there's more drama brewing. For years, MSNBC's Joe and Mika from Morning Joe have called Trump every insult under the sun: Hitler, fascist, Nazi, dictator, and a threat to democracy. But over the weekend, they appeared to change their tune. They visited Mar-a-Lago to meet with Trump, reportedly to mend fences, regain favor, and possibly boost their show's ratings by rebuilding their relationship with him. Unsurprisingly, Sunny wasn't happy about this shift. Let's take a look at her reaction.
America needs a free press that is willing to speak truth to power right now, more than ever. And I think that we have to be very clear-eyed when we think about the president-elect and cover the president-elect. And I don't think you need to sit down for 90 minutes at Mar-a-Lago and kiss his ring to be able to speak truth and to be able to cover a story. So maybe they're not journalists in the true sense. Maybe they're saying that they're opinion journalists. But we have to remember that Trump is the guy who ushered in the era of fake news. He is the guy who ushered in alternative facts. I think that this president-elect, I hate to say it, would like nothing more than to have only Fox News cover him, would like nothing more than a state-sponsored media. And I don't think he can be trusted in the way that other presidents can be trusted. This is an aberration.
But the reality is he doesn't just have Fox News. He didn't do a lot of mainstream media this election, but he went on Joe Rogan and reached 50 million people.
Yeah.
None of us could talk to Donald Trump again. No mainstream legacy media could. And he's still going to reach the vast majority of this country. So I actually think extremely highly of both Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski. I don't think this is opportunistic. I don't think that this is a judgment on their character. I think they recognize 75 million people voted for this guy. He will be in power short of something, an impeachment for the next 4 years. So where can we make some changes on the margin?
This election made one thing clear. Mainstream media isn't as powerful as it once was for spreading political messages. Trump's fake news label wasn't random. It came from repeated instances where the media reported unverified or false information as fact. During his 2016 campaign, mainstream outlets accused him of colluding with Russia, called him a Russian puppet, and even spied on his campaign. These narratives, often presented without evidence, were pushed as truth. Over time, this pattern destroyed trust in mainstream media and opened the door for alternative platforms like podcasts and independent media channels. These platforms gained massive popularity because they bypassed the controlled narratives of traditional outlets, which often frame stories to shape public opinion. For example, the media once assured the public that certain measures were 100% effective, only for those claims to later be proven wrong. Yet, there were no retractions or apologies when the facts came out. This failure to own up to mistakes has fueled skepticism and solidified the fake news label, further weakening mainstream media's influence. Trump's success shows the strength of alternative media, which connects with audiences in a way mainstream outlets cannot. These platforms create more personal, meaningful engagement, building trust and loyalty over time. While MSNBC is now trying to appear more transparent and unbiased, it feels like too little, too late. Their credibility has already taken a major hit, and their recent efforts to course correct won't easily fix it. That's why it was so interesting to see MSNBC seemingly admit defeat by meeting with Trump and softening their tone publicly. It's a clear sign that the media landscape has changed, and alternative media is now leading the way in shaping public conversations.
I know that as a country, it's very difficult for people to believe that racism and misogyny, they're just alive and well. I think that we don't want to think that about ourselves, our neighbors, our friends, but it's my lived experience tells me that it does still exist, even if your lived experience doesn't tell you that it exists. And, you know, the facts support that. I think we have a graph. If you look at there's a clear racial divide in who voted for Trump as opposed to who voted for Kamala Harris. It's very clear. It's not only clear by race, but it's also clear by education. And so the notion somehow that that is not true, this is by education. Those who attended college voted for her at a higher degree than those that didn't.
But I think you're missing his point.
Let me just finish. And so I've said that before, and there was so much backlash because I think it's an uncomfortable, inconvenient truth about this country.
But his whole point is they didn't vote for him because of racism and misogyny. They voted for him because they felt like, I think the biggest common denominator in this election is people want a good life and ability to provide for their family.
Well,
and whether we agree or not with Donald Trump's plans,
Black people
they thought that he was reflective.
One of the poorest demographics in this country, but they voted for Kamala Harris.
But there was a split, and more of them voted for Donald Trump than had historically. I think that there's such a desire. If you really think the vast majority of this country voted because of racism and misogyny, you're missing it. Most of my family, a lot of my family doesn't have college degrees.
But the stats are the stats.
But that's not, it doesn't say I'm white, I voted for Donald Trump because of racism. That's not what stat. What stat are you talking about?
Let me just dissect.
Yes, you can. There's a lot
Hold on. Calm down. Everybody just take a breath.
For someone who went to law school and always talks about being smart, Sunny's arguments are really weak. She said, while sexism and racism are true in my lived experience, they may not be in yours. This is the problem with the whole my truth idea. It's just her opinion, not a fact. If you want to talk about racism or sexism being everywhere, you need proof, not just personal stories. It's like saying, I've never been hungry, so no one else must be hungry. That's just selfish and doesn't make sense. Sunny also doesn't seem to understand how to use numbers to prove her points. She said more white people voted for Trump than Kamala Harris, so it must be racism. But that doesn't make sense unless she's saying all white people are racist, which is a pretty ridiculous claim. Her own arguments don't even add up. She showed that most Hispanics voted for Kamala Harris, but then said a 90% Hispanic town voting 75% for Trump was because of racism and sexism. These kinds of contradictions make her points fall apart completely. It's clear she doesn't know how to use the data she's showing, and her arguments don't hold up. Honestly, it's been fun watching her co-hosts call her out all the time. If you enjoyed this, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Make sure to turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. See you soon.